everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm Jenny, and as always, I'm here with Mark, our resident tech guru.
Hey Jenny, great to be back. And today, we're diving into something pretty wild. The launch of Windows 95. I mean, this thing was huge back in the day.
It's so funny to think about now, right? An operating system causing this much excitement. But I guess it really was a huge deal. I mean, it had the start menu?
Oh man, the start menu? But yeah, it was more than that. This was 1995, right? The internet was just starting to become a thing for most people. Computers were still kind of scary for a lot of folks.
Totally. So, set the stage for us, Mark. What made Windows 95 so special, especially from a tech standpoint?
Okay, so, picture this. Before 95, most people were using Windows 3.1. Or, if you were really cool, maybe Windows for Workgroups 3.11. It was clunky, it was not very intuitive. Windows 95 comes along, and it's a 32-bit operating system. Now that might sound like jargon, but basically, it could handle way more information at once, more power, more multitasking.
Right, like you could actually have multiple programs open without your computer having a meltdown?
Exactly. And it had this thing called plug and play. So you could plug in a printer or something and wait for it. It would actually work.
Laughs. The good old days when that was not a guarantee.
I know, right? It sounds basic now, but it was a serious improvement. And then of course you had the interface. The start menu, the taskbar. It was just so much easier to use.
It's like they finally made computers user-friendly. But it wasn't just the tech, right? The marketing was, insane?
Oh, it was wild. So Microsoft, right? They went all out. We're talking a $300 million marketing campaign. Just to put that in perspective, that was like blockbuster movie level money back then.
And they got the Rolling Stones to license Start Me Up for one of their commercials, which must have cost a fortune.
Yeah, around $12 million just for the song rights. But think about it. It was perfect. Start Me Up, start menu. It was catchy. It was memorable.
And those commercials, they were everywhere. TV, newspapers, billboards. They even lit up the Empire State Building in Windows colors.
They really did. It was quite a spectacle. And they didn't just advertise in the US. This was a global campaign. I was reading that they even had launch events in other countries.
But the thing I find most interesting is how they turned a software launch into this massive cultural event. I mean, people were lining up outside stores at midnight just to get their hands on a copy of Windows 95.
Oh yeah, the midnight launches. I remember seeing footage of that. It was like a new Star Wars movie was coming out or something. People were so hyped.
It's fascinating, isn't it? A software release generating that level of public excitement. What do you think drove that, beyond the marketing?
Well, I think a big part of it was that Windows 95 represented this shift. It was making computers more accessible, more mainstream. It wasn't just for techies anymore. This was something your average person could see themselves using. Plus, there was this promise of the future. You know, the internet was coming. And Windows 95 was going to be your gateway to it.
That's a great point. It was like, here's this tool that's going to change your life. And it did, in a lot of ways. I mean, they sold 7 million copies in the first 5 weeks alone.
Which was unheard of at the time for an operating system. By 1998, just 3 years later, they had captured over 57% of the market.
Wow. So it clearly resonated with people. But that kind of success also brings scrutiny, right? I seem to remember Microsoft getting some heat for being, shall we say, a bit too dominant.
Oh yeah, the antitrust stuff. That's a whole other can of worms. But you're right, their success with Windows 95 definitely put them under the microscope. It raised all these questions about monopolies and fair competition.
It's a tricky balance, isn't it? On one hand, they created this product that really did improve things for a lot of people. But on the other hand, their dominance maybe made it harder for other companies to compete.
Right. But I think, for all the complexities, Windows 95 was a pivotal moment. It really did help bring computers into the mainstream. It made them more user-friendly, more powerful, and more connected.
And it showed the world that, hey, tech can be exciting. It can be a cultural event. It's not just about lines of code. It's about how we interact with the world.
Well said, Jenny. And it's a great reminder that even something as seemingly mundane as an operating system can have a profound impact on society.
Thanks for breaking it all down for us, Mark. It's always fascinating to see how these technological milestones shape our world.
My pleasure, Jenny. It's these kinds of stories that make me excited about where technology is headed next.
That's all for this episode, folks. Join us next time as we continue exploring the wild and wonderful world of tech.